Alrighty. Hello everyone, I am Vani, and this here is my RPG Limit Break 2020 submission video for Neutopia 2 for the TurboGrafx 16. Specifically, we're going to be doing the 100% category here. Now, I wanted to offer this for several reasons. First of all, the predecessor to this game, the first Neutopia, was featured at RPG Limit Break last year. I did it, and it was very popular. The response from it was really positive. There were great memes that came out of it. A lot of people had a lot of fun with it. So I wanted to bring the sequel to it in the following year. It just seems to make a lot of sense. Now, if you're familiar with or remember the Neutopia speedrun, even though this is the direct sequel to the game, it's going to be different from it in quite a few ways, many ways. And I'll be sure to explain all of those differences as we go along. Now, before we begin, I do want to point something out. Normally when I run this game, and when I run the first Neutopia as well, I use the Japanese version because the text scroll is faster. However, for this submission and for what I would like to do for the run, we're going to be using the US version. And we're going to do this for two very specific reasons. The game will be in English, and the first reason I want to do it is because the game does have a story that kind of unfolds. So if we do it in English, we'll be able to actually read what's going on. And that's definitely a good thing. So we'll want to make sure that you get a sense of the story there. The second reason why we do it is because of an incentive that I'm going to offer for this game. Right at the very beginning of the game, we are going to be able to name our character. It's up to 6 characters that we can type in. And this name gets seen a lot. Every time people will refer to you by your name. Every time you obtain an item, it'll say, X has gained the key. X has gained the, this sword or whatnot. So you definitely, no pun intended, but you definitely get your money's worth as far as the naming incentive goes. So I do want to make sure that that is available. All right, I tell you what, let me go ahead and shut off my camera here so we can focus on the game. Now, here's the thing. Selecting or typing in the name is going to happen immediately after the run starts, or the timer starts, I should say, because we're going to start it as soon as we hit start on the screen. So I'm going to have to type in the name. I use Vani here for this run, just kind of as an example. So as far as how much time this incentive will add, it's really just a handful of seconds. It's however long you see me type it in here. So, all right, let's go ahead and go. All right, so we'll be hitting start in just a second here. Okay, so it took me about 5 or 6 seconds to enter in that name, so really no big deal. All right, so the soldier there, or the warrior that you see there, that is Jazeta. He was the hero of the first game. However, the one that you see standing here, just randomly staring at this sleeping woman, is his son. We will name him whatever the donors decide to name him, and he's being told by this lady, "Oh, your dad disappeared a year ago. We don't know where he's at. Go to the Urias Shrine to find out. You need to go and find your dad." And so she will give us a magic compass, which doesn't really do us much good for the speed run, but is great for casual play, and then we are off and running. Now, as soon as we leave the first spot, we do the exact same thing we do in the first speed run. And this guy knows it. Look, I'm still around from the first game. What a great sequel. So the first thing we do is we pick up a pack of bombs, and we also get the medicine. Now that we have this stuff, we are ready to head on out. I'm going to take this opportunity right now to point out that just like the first game, this game has a fantastic soundtrack. You get a banger right off the bat. All right, so here's the first enormous difference from the first game. Money actually has a use in this game, or the gold value that you see there. And we're going to need to grind to get it. Now we're going to do this by defeating enemies. Every enemy in this game has a unique table of drops. There's 3 levels of rarity for the items that they will drop. These slimes here, their entire drop table is money. They can drop either 10, 50, or 100 gold. Now these pigs here we're going to take the time to kill as well, because in their drop table is bombs, as well as the 50 coin, which is the golden coin. So we've already got 60. We need to get to 300. And we need to get there before we get to the next town. So we're going to go up here to the first crypt, go all the way through it, and then come back out. Okay, so there's another 60 gold. That's good. So I've got 140, so I'm pretty much halfway there. We're only a couple screens away from the first crypt. So this is actually a pretty decent start. Now, one thing that I've been doing, I kind of tried to do it there, but you're going to see me do it throughout the game, is something I called corner rolling, where when you are moving around a corner, if you kind of try to force your body into it, or push your body into the corner at a specific spot, you'll see you kind of twitch, and then he kind of just launches forward a little bit. And this is just moved to, you see, I kind of do it. I did it twice there, where you see he just kind of twitches as far as this direction, and then we'll move forward a little faster. We just use this throughout the run to save some time. All right, so here we are in the first crypt. These are what I like to refer to as the bombs of shame, because we didn't get any bomb drops from the pigs. Bombs, and especially your bomb count, are extremely important throughout the entire run. Now you notice I just got hit by an enemy there. The damage boosts in this game are like comical as far as how far back they send you. But in situations like that, and there will be another one in this crypt and several other times throughout the game, they can be used to our advantage. Alright, so even though I don't have to fight these little fire slimes here, I'm going to do it anyway because I want to see that bomb pack right there. So we are in great shape. Now, bombs in this game are used almost exclusively to just break open walls where we need them to. They're very powerful as weapons, however, they're really unwieldy to use just because of how long it takes for them to explode. So here you see, boom, there's an enemy right there that hits us, but if we face the direction opposite the way we want to go, we will always get boosted in that direction. And you move pretty fast and a pretty good distance. So another 50. So I'm already at 200 gold. I'm in pretty good shape here. So we're obtaining the key. Each crypt has a key that's unique to it, and you need to get the key in that crypt in order to unlock the door to the boss's room for that crypt. Alright, so here's a room where we're forced to fight the fire slimes. Got 50 gold there and 50 gold there. We are at our 300. It is not very common to get to 300 before getting out of this crypt. So the fact that we've done it for this run is actually really fortunate. Now, so that enemy drops a set of wings there. That's also very fortunate too. What wings do is they teleport you to... Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, so you notice that the sword is being stabbed into this man's face. Here's the reason why. Holding down the 1 button, which is the same button you use to swing your sword, makes the text scroll by faster. So we want to press the 1 button at the exact right time to get the text scroll going as fast as possible. And if you do it frame perfect, you will stab as you're going into the actual text boxes. So here's our first boss, Mecha Worm. Now here's another big difference between this Neutopia and the first one. In the first one, almost all of the bosses had no RNG or very easily manipulatable RNG. In this game, it's the exact opposite. Almost all of the bosses have RNG that is just, you're at their mercy. Only a couple of them we will be able to manipulate. So that worm can pop out of anywhere and go any direction, so you just got to make sure you don't die. Fortunately, because of the 100% category, we get the armor upgrade that's in here, which definitely makes that fight a lot safer, as well as the life upgrade that we got right before we entered the crypt. So I'm going to go ahead and use those wings to teleport back to the beginning and make my walk shorter. Normally, I don't have 300 gold here, so I need to get it on my walk back by killing more enemies. But the fact that I had the 300 gold and the wings saves you a large chunk of time. So the item that we got from defeating that first crypt is an item called the Chalice of Agony, which I think is just a great name. As opposed to the first Neutopia, where you were just collecting the 8 medallions from each crypt in order to open the way to the final boss, each item that you get here is going to be something that will allow progression to the next section. So in that sense, this game is rather linear. You see there's a little tile there that has a picture of a chalice on it. This place is filled with lava, however, the Chalice of Agony is going to freeze all of it and allow us to just walk right across into the next section of the game, where we need to be going. This actually might be a decent time for a quick donation. We just got a few screens to walk here. Alrighty, so here's that town that I was talking about. Now on this next screen, there's two rather important buildings. The first one is the here on the left. And this jolly fat man will sell us a boomerang for 300 gold. The boomerang is an extremely powerful weapon, and we will use it in many situations. But we have to be really careful with it, and I'll explain that when we actually get to using it. Now, throughout the game, we're going to talk to these folks here in the purple robes. He does two things. First of all, he's going to refill our HP to max, but also he's going to give us the quote-unquote password. Now, we're never actually going to use the password, but in so doing, it will set a flag for where we will warp to when we use wings. And we're going to use wings through several sections of the game. So we need to kill these two flies here. They are trolling me like they normally do. Like, look, he's just going to go all the way away from me. I'm going to chase him down finally. We need to kill them both so that we can push this rock, make this staircase appear, and we come in here, and for those that are familiar with the first run, we are going to get a very, very familiar item, the Fire Wand. Unfortunately, unlike the first game, this is not nearly as useful. We used it liberally throughout the first game as an assault weapon. But unfortunately, its power just does not mean as much here. Alright, so we see the boomerang on display. Normally these things take several hits, but we're just going to slam them down with the boomerang instead. Now, the gold that enemies drop here, it really doesn't matter. For the most part, money is irrelevant to the rest of the run. We just needed it to get that boomerang. I'm going to go ahead and kill these pigs because they can drop bombs. Virtually any chance that we get to obtain bombs, we're going to take it, because we just need so many throughout the run. So anyway, one more quick note about the money. There is the outside chance that I will need to buy another boomerang, but probably not. So money just doesn't really matter here. All right, so we burn our way into here and talk to this guy, and what he is going to do is he is going to give us a bomb capacity upgrade. Normally we could only hold a maximum of 8. Now we can hold a maximum of 12. There were guys that you could talk to in the first Neutopia that would do the same thing. However, unfortunately, unlike the first Neutopia, when you got a bomb upgrade, it also upgraded your bomb capacity. It also filled your bomb capacity to full. Excuse me. Unfortunately, it doesn't do that in this one. It just increases the upgrade but keeps you at your same count. Alright, so into Crypt 2. Now, you might notice that I took a damage boost there. That wasn't necessarily to move. The reason why we did that... Oh, that's a great bomb drop there. You definitely want to see at least one in the course of this crypt, so the fact that we got it right off the bat is really sweet. Manipula herb is the item in this crypt. Also, so that red block and what he was talking about are what are called dagger blocks. They're jerks and they're everywhere. We already got wings. That's awesome. We need to kill all those enemies in order to push the block to get the bronze shield here. Now, the reason why we dropped down to 6 hearts is because of what you saw there. When I was throwing out the fire, it's just those very fast little fireballs. Those are much easier to control than the rolling columns of fire that you get at a higher amount of life, which are very slow and just kind of difficult to really time and aim properly. So we intentionally dropped down to 6 hearts, which is the most that you can have to have that kind of, level or that grade of fire. So here we go. We are getting our key. Okay, we just shoot that snake down. Shoot that snake down. Once all the enemies are dead, push this block, and we can go on through. That room is done rather quickly. These enemies are jerks. Unfortunately, they cannot be affected by the fire wand, so you kind of just have to hope that they come down so that you can kill them fast, and fortunately, they cooperated there. Got to move very carefully around these dagger blocks. It is very easy to walk right into them if you're just on the wrong tile or the wrong pixel or whatnot. Again, you can just use fire to mow down these snakes pretty quickly. That was a very fortunate damage boost. It put me right to the block that I needed to push. Alrighty. Now you're going to see the power of the boomerang. That was the dream boomerang throw, to just get one where they were all bunched up and we got to kill all of them. That normally doesn't go like that, but we were pretty good. So we come in here and we get the bronze sword. Again, with this being the 100% category, we're going to collect all sword, shield, and armor upgrades, as well as all permanent items. So the fire columns, we're going to see these throughout a lot of the crypts. They are on a fixed cycle when it comes to the timing of when they breathe that fire, and that timer starts as soon as you enter the room. So we know with a high level of certainty just how those patterns are going to go. So here we go. So room before the final boss. So you see how that door is kind of a brownish color? That's what indicates that it is the boss door and why we would need the key. And you can see the boomerang making life very, very easy there, taking out all of those enemies very quickly. All right, so here's the boss. These are the maggot moths. These are also very much RNG, and of course, there's 2 of them. So this might actually can get rather dangerous if they decide to kind of rush you down. So you have to wait for them to land and for their back section to glow. That's when you can damage them. Each of them takes 4 boomerang hits to kill. So if you're below them, they will shoot out these spores that will do damage, but if you're above them, they won't. However, being above them puts you closer to those dagger blocks and can make things dangerous there. All right. So we have our Manipula herb. You see, I've already menued over to the wings. They're very important here. If you don't have them, you have to walk all the way back, and that probably takes, I'm going to say, a little over a minute. So we don't want that. Alrighty, so we're going to walk back into the shrine, as well as have one of the longer cutscenes in this game, even though, I mean, long is a relative term. It's only going to be maybe about, like, 25 or 30 seconds. So this would probably be a good time for a couple of donations. So we give the Manipula herb to Princess Kea. She recovers slowly and then immediately hops out of bed, which is great. So now we get a little bit of the story here. So we're talking about the events of the first Neutopia. Dearth kidnapped the princess, but your father saved us. But now he is gone again. He was consulting this shrine to ask about the evil that was going to be bubbling up in Neutopia again. And that was the last time he was seen. So we need to give the chalice to the shrine here and hope for a miracle. So here you need to have the herb in order to get this cutscene, and you need to have the chalice in order to make this happen here as well. So there we go. Alrighty, so this next walk to the crypt, to the third crypt of the game, it's pretty long. So this would be another great time for, you know, multiple donations. Probably fit in a blurb or two here. This is a really good time for that. We've got a bit of downtime here. We're not going to be doing any combat. We're basically just going to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible. Although we do have a fairly important location coming up as far as the run goes, and more specifically, this submission here goes. It's coming up in just a couple screens. Here we go. So this place here is what we affectionately refer to as Dope Beat Cave for reasons which should be rather obvious. Listen to that fantastic groove. Anyway, so why this is important is that at the suggestion of my chat, when we go through here, they have suggested that I write some lyrics, essentially kind of like some rap lyrics to go over that. And I have done so, and I think it would be a cool incentive to have people donate to listen to me rap during the middle of a speed run. I promise you all of the lyrics are family safe and not offensive, and they pretty much are all just Neutopia memes, so it would be cool. So these saw blade things here are everywhere, and they're not very fun. But just like the fire that we talked about before, their timer is on a fixed cycle that starts when you enter the room. So here we have these wizard enemies. These are going to be kind of repeats from the first Neutopia. However, in this version, they are much, much easier to deal with. It takes a long time for them to shoot their weapon. They don't move as fast. Now, here we go. Now, you saw me just stand there and take that damage boost hop to the other side of that wizard. The reason is that if I try to just fight it from above, I'm just going to push it down into the corner. It's probably going to hit me and push me back up. It's going to take a lot longer. So I just boost to get under it, push it up towards the top of the screen, which is closer to the door I need to get to anyway, and it just makes that a lot faster. So it's just little tricks like that when it comes to combat and enemy manipulation that just make things a little faster. Alright, so depending on my bomb count, there are alternate routes that I can go here. If I don't have a lot of bombs, instead of bombing to the left, well, I would bomb to the left here. But as opposed to bombing down here like I'm going to do, I would instead go back to the right and go down through that door. Now that's going to be longer because these bombs are kind of more of a direct route to where we want to go. But if I don't have enough to get through here, then I really don't have a choice. So that makes the run a little interesting, especially in a marathon setting where, you know, I might have to kind of just change my route on the fly depending on what my inventory looks like. Oops. Got a little frisky with the saw blade there. Alrighty, now you see that little kind of diamond-shaped tile? I'm going to step on it right now. Those are floor plates. There's going to be lots of them throughout the game, and they will have various effects. Some of them will, raise or lower blocks. Some of them will cause arrows to shoot out. Some of them will cause these little, like, spikes to appear in the ground. They all have different things that they do, and knowing which tiles do what in specific rooms is actually going to be very important. Alright, they both just bunched up there for a happy birthday. That is always nice. The more you can, the more you can double up, or sometimes, like here, doubling them up, just makes chasing them down, I don't have to chase them down. The more you can do that, the faster things go, which is pretty obvious. Alright, now this next room. When I'm playing this on my CRT, this room is basically completely black. Fortunately, the pattern to get through here is very simple. So, otherwise, that could be pretty tricky. Alright, so, almost at the boss room. Go ahead and get that heart for safety, because I might be taking damage here. Alright. So this boss here. This is the Weird Toad. Weird Toad has 3 attacks. That's one of them. I like to refer to that as the Golden Brain. There's the second attack, which is the Tongue Lash. There's another Tongue Lash. And then that's what I refer to as the Tongue Spores. Now, which of the 3 attacks it does after a jump is completely random. But like I said, you can only damage it when you see the Golden Brain. So if we just keep going here and it doesn't show me the Golden Brain, there's literally nothing I can do. I just need to keep dodging the attacks until it gives me its weak point. Now, this can be killed in 2 cycles. I've had this boss go to almost 30 cycles before. We're definitely in the double digits here, so I am absolutely getting trolled. On average, I want to say you kill it in about like 6 to 8 cycles. So the fact that that took, at least double that is not cool. But you're just completely at the mercy of RNG. 4 hits on the Golden Brain is all you need to do to take it out. As long as you don't goof, once you see 2 Golden Brains, as long as you're throwing that boomerang out in a timely fashion, you only need to kill it. It'll only take 2 of those particular cycles. Here's the Rainbow Drop. That's another fan favorite from the first version. It does the exact same thing as it did in the first game, and we will put it to use pretty soon. Now, you might notice that I didn't even bother anything with wings there. First of all, I don't have them. Second of all, even if I did, I'm not going to use them because on our way back out of this crypt, we have some things that we want to pick up along the way. The reason why we didn't do it before is because we needed that Rainbow Drop in order to get them. So now that we have it, we can pick up, just a really important item, and I'll explain that when we get to it. So these rocks can drop bombs. However, it is their rare drop. So, I'm kind of going out of my way, just praying to get bombs, and my prayers were answered right there. So, sometimes you get lucky. Few walking screens here means we could probably do a donation or 2. Alrighty. That arrow is pointing us towards this gentleman here, who is going to give us the falcon shoes. Now, just like they're the falcon boots in the first one, but just like in that one, it is going to dramatically increase my walking speed. Only, I think in this version, the difference between your normal speed and your falcon shoes speed is even more dramatic. So, you can see I'm just zooming now compared to what I was doing. So we're going to make our way back to the town that we passed through very quickly on our way to this third crypt. But before we get there, we got to take a slight detour in order to pick up another item. I'm supposed to go across there. Unfortunately, the bridge got stuck, as it likes to do, so I was able to recover nicely. Those trees didn't really get a chance to wail on me. Alright, so we already have the fire staff. Now we're obtaining the wind staff. The wind staff is virtually useless. There's one or two applications where we might use it. Ideally, we don't. Again, basically the only reason we're getting this is to satisfy that 100% requirement. So we come up here, boost to go right back that way. That way the tree doesn't wake up and get in front of us and boost us back to the right. Alright, we're going to push this clock here. Secret room. We get the Moonbeam Moss. Again, this is a repeat from the first one. But here's the thing. There are so few dark rooms in this game, at least as far as the rooms that we go into for the run. I'm never going to use it. I'm really just getting it to satisfy the 100% requirement. Another point about these guys here in the purple robes is that they will also serve as kind of like a checkpoint. If I die, I will go back to the last purple robe guy that I talked to. So again, in the marathon setting, in case I die, they'll keep me from going back too far. A few screens of walking here could probably sneak in a donation. Bait that guy to roll so that we can avoid him. Burn through this tree. And we get another bomb upgrade. So now we can hold up to 16. This is going to be very useful in about 2 or 3 crypts from now. See, we're about to go in 4. Yeah, so crypt 6 is where we need a lot of bombs. So now we have ice physics. And just like in most games, ice physics are not cool. However, we were able to scoot right into this staircase. And this wonderful guy gives us the snow boots. Snow boots nullify ice physics, which is fantastic. So we only have to deal with it for, essentially 3 screens. Sometimes you kind of slide around trying to get in that staircase. Luckily, I was able to just head straight into it. You can use the rock on the previous screen as a guide. Few more screens to walk here, so a donation would be good if we needed it. Tried to pin that guy in place and I just mistimed it. Alrighty, so you can see as soon as we get into this 4th crypt, that little rainbow bridge that's going on, that's the rainbow drop in action. So you absolutely have to have it before you can come in here. So you see the arrows that shot out there in that last screen? That was a product of me stepping on those tiles that were in the middle of the room. Alrighty, so we take this detour here to pick up the silver sword. The strength increase from the bronze sword to the silver sword is rather significant. So this is definitely a welcome upgrade that I think I would consider getting in the any percent run, but obviously here for 100% we're required to do it. Yeah. Accidentally moved up a screen there, was just trying to make sure I got the timing right to go by that saw blade, and I did. This is another crypt where if you are running low on bombs, you might have to take an alternate route. So, but with 8, that's going to be plenty. Now you see sometimes those floor tiles will make those spikes appear. Luckily they're toggles, so if you step on a plate to make the spikes appear, you can step off it and immediately back on it, and the spikes will go back down, which is good. All right, so these ghosts here are important because they drop wings. I really, really want to have a set of wings coming out of here. So we fight 4 in this room and then 4 in a later room. So we've got those 8 opportunities to get wings. So this here is a weapon called the flail. The flail is rather weak, and so as a result, it's not terribly useful. With one massive exception. There's going to be a particular set of enemies we're going to start fighting once we get into Crypt 6, where having the flail makes very, very quick work of them. So we just get it now, and we just hold on. All right, now, if my bomb count is low, I would normally go up through that door up there. I'd have to kill all the mummies, push a block, do all that stuff. But instead, we can just bomb to the right, bomb up, and here we go. So I hope to get wings, and I already got them. I also got a lucky hourglass. Look, there's more wings. And hey, even more wings. You can only hold one set of wings at a time, so the fact that I got more does me no good. Alrighty. If you are given bombs, take them. Do not leave that behind. Okay, so this boss here, this is Roboid. This is one of the few bosses where we can manipulate its movement. What we want to do is we want to stand to its left. We want to bait out these punches. The first time around, we're going to bait out 4 punches. There's the 4th. Now we're going to move to the corner, wait till he drops, throw the boomerang, and as it's coming back, it's just going to do maximum damage to it while it's exposed on the way back. So now we get to its right, and we're going to bait out these punches. We want to bait out 5 of them this time. That was 4. There's our 5th one. Get into position. Shortly after he drops, throw the boomerang, hit, and we're done. 2 cycles is the fastest you can do that. If it goes to a 3rd cycle, you basically just got to do the same thing. Stand to its side, bait out a few punches, wait till it drops, hit it with the boomerang. Having it go to a 3rd cycle probably wastes 12, 15 seconds maybe. And again, as soon as we hit the ground, after the crypt, we immediately use wings. I want to say that set of wings is probably the most important in the game as far as a time save. As far as a time save goes, it's at least 1.5 minutes. So the item that we obtained in the end of that last crypt we were in was the Aqua Lung, which is going to allow us to breathe underwater. This is the only underwater section of the game, and it's not very long. Or the underwater section of the run, I should say. Also, the music in here is fantastic. It's unfortunate that we don't get to hear it for very long. And that's the only place we do get to hear it. Speaking of music, you might notice that the music in this crypt is different. It's actually significant. So this crypt, I think, is probably the most technical one in the game because it's got a lot of enemies where you want to manipulate their movement and kind of dance around them, like these water blobs. We definitely bait these things to jump at us at the right spots so that we can avoid them and do as much damage as possible to them. Yeah, now if you stay standing on a plate that shoots those arrows from the wall, it will continue to shoot them. It's not like every time you step on it, it will send one out. It's continually on a timer. Alright, so those blue kind of vortex things I step in, they teleport you to different spots in the room. So you see we use the trick there where we step on the tile, expose the spikes, walk right back, step on it again, and they go back down. We're going to do this in several spots throughout the run. This would probably be a good spot for a donation. We are going to retrieve an item here in the next room, and as he tells us, it is the silver armor. This is another significant upgrade, only this time, of course, to our defense. But it's also very important for the next boss that we're going to fight, where we will be taking damage from it. Alright, really not much to do here except just walk to the final, or I'm sorry, walk to the boss of this crypt, excuse me. So, a couple donations here would also probably be pretty good. Okay, again, we're just going to try to manipulate these slimes to move the way we want them to go. That's easier said than done, especially when we're trying to negotiate the Rainbow Bridge as well. This room can be rather trolly because it's got one of these holes here where the enemies can pop out. And if they pop out and move up, they can just keep bouncing you back, and it's rather irritating to deal with. Alright, we're about to fight the boss. Alrighty. We get our boomerang on. So here we go. This is Kraken. Recognize him? This is the enemy from the very first cutscene in the game. Now that's why the music was different. Just 2 boomerang throws hopefully is what you need to kill it. You just basically just tank some damage, hit it with the boomerang, and then it dies. Now here's the reason why that music was different. The music is actually the same as the crypt music from the first Neutopia, where Jazeta was our hero, and now we see him here. So we are reunited with Dad. And he is here to tell you, look, Dearth is back. I didn't kill him the first time. I need you to finish the job. So take my Sword of Legend. I don't have the strength to continue. It's all up to you at this point. Go get him, son. And rip Jazeta. Alrighty, so fortunately finishing that crypt teleports us right back here to the shrine, which is where we need to go. We talk to this guy. He lets us in. Now we got the legendary sword from the end of that crypt. Using the legendary sword into this block here is going to open up this pathway here and allow us to move to the next section of the game. So again, that sword is a progression item. You cannot make that opening appear if you do not have that sword. And conveniently, it's got a little picture of the sword on the ground, so you know exactly what you need to do in order to go on. So we talk to this guy. The health refill is really nice there because what we've got coming up next is a pretty long walk. That's good potential for damage. And then we've got the Mega Crypt. Crypt 6 is easily the longest crypt in the game. It takes a good run through the crypt itself is about 9 minutes, maybe a little less. We've got several rooms we're going to need to go through, and as you would imagine, having the maximum amount of health for it is always a good thing. Again, with the snow boots, these ice physics are not affecting us, so we can walk through here as we normally would. Alright, gotta toss on the fire rod, melt the door, into the crypt we go. Alrighty. So these dragon enemies in here are rather annoying, but at least they drop bombs as their common drop, so it's easy to forgive them. As you can see, there's a pack right there. We need 17 bombs to get through this entire crypt, so we are going to be very reliant on bomb drops to keep our supply healthy. think I'm probably at my max now, which is good. I'm going to need all of them for this crypt. But I also still want to get more packs because I need them for the crypts coming up too. Now I don't have to kill this little Reaper guy, but I do just in case because they can drop wings and I will want to have them coming up later. I need to bomb to the right. However, I got stuck there, so I think I might as well just kill these guys. And that's what I was looking for, is hearts. That's these water blobs common drop. So I want to keep my life as high as possible throughout this crypt, because like I said, it takes a long time to get through, and we don't want to use a potion if we don't have to. Now, trying to negotiate these dagger blocks and these slide tiles is rather awful. It's very easy to take damage on them. So, it's just something you have to deal with. Alright. So we've got these cloud enemies here. This is the flail's time to shine. So what the flail does is, you see, it throws out this kind of like, looks like a grappling hook kind of arm that, as you're throwing it out, if you rotate the directional pad, you can make it swing all the way around you. Now, it's really important to fight them in a certain way such that you don't grab an hourglass before they're all split up. Otherwise, you won't be able to continue to split them, and you have to wait for the hourglass to end. So that crystal item that drops, as soon as you hit it, all enemies in the room freeze and die, and you can move on. Alright. Not a whole lot going on here, so this could be a donation. A donation opportunity. We're just kind of moving through rooms here. Yeah, you see, I even tried to avoid that dagger block, but those slide tiles make it very, very tight as far as where you need to walk into to avoid it. So again, with these saw blades being on a fixed cycle, I know as long as I move, I'm going to avoid the second one there. And that was very close, but I made it. Yeah, I was going to say, I'll probably take an opportunity here to kill at least one of these guys. Hoping to get wings, went fishing for them, came up empty. That treasure chest there is a bomb pack. If I need it, I will get it. Having 12 walking into the room, I'm in good shape, so I just pass it. Alright, we have to delay for a second there to let those... You can try to wedge a bomb in there as the daggers are coming out, and you will place it, but you'll also take damage. Considering I've already got 3 hearts gone, I didn't want to risk it. It was worth it to wait. Those are the bombs we like to see. These rooms can be a pain when you're trying to deal with tiles and the rainbow drop. It's just... It can be very tricky. Again, a donation or two would be fine here. Not a whole lot going on. This is another one of those rooms I was talking about where you've got to deal with tiles and using the rainbow bridge in several spots. It can just be very, very particular. So you see, yeah, so the clouds have 3 forms. There's the large, the medium, and the small. Each time you hit each one, it will change. Now, if you grab the hourglass, which freezes all enemies in the room for about 15 seconds, and they are not in their smallest form, you cannot split them. You have to wait for the time to wear. The frozen time to wear off. Yeah. I take a second here to try to kill the snakes. I'm going fishing for a ring, which I won't need until the final crypt, but I didn't already have one, so it was worth it to try to get one. All right, this particular room can be very problematic. You've got these knights walking around all over the place shooting arrows, and then you've also got these slide tiles that are pushing you towards these dagger blocks. I take way more damage in this room than I intended to, which is not good. Alright, so this young lady gives us the flute. This will be a necessary item to gain another necessary item later. So anytime I've got to bomb into two separate walls, I always like to lay one as I'm going through, so that way I don't have to wait for it when I'm going back. Because again, it just takes so long for those bombs to detonate. Now, I'm going to do a little trick here where I'm going to find the seam right in between those two teleports and walk through, as opposed to having to walk up to the top of the room and wait for the teleport and then go back down. Alrighty. So we're going to go ahead and farm these dragons here, especially because we can just push them all into a corner, kill them all very quickly, and that's the bomb drop we were looking for. They almost always come through there, so it's absolutely worth the time to do it. So now we're forced to fight these Reapers, and they can be a big pain. I'm already taking a lot more damage than I want to. They can also disappear and then reappear elsewhere and just make things difficult. Yeah, I'm taking a ton of damage here. But I do get wings for it, and that's exactly what we wanted to see. Taking that damage there was really unfortunate. I'm down to 2 hearts, which is a very, very precarious place to be. I will most likely... I do use the medicine in here. Spoiler alert. And I'll explain why I did. Obviously, I'm waiting there for that fire. I can't really boost through it. Alright, so one more room before the boss. These guys can drop hearts. I would love to see one, but I don't. Okay, so here's the boss, Medusa. Medusa's very easy to kill. We just walk to the left. We get kind of aligned with that crystal in her head. I'm going to use the potion here because there's a good chance that they can swoop through and hit you there. Now, her little snakes only do half a heart of damage. However, a Medusa hug does 2 hearts of damage. Had I not popped that potion, I would have been dead. Now, ideally, we bring both potions into the final crypt to use on the final boss, but I'm down 1, so I'll need to get another one. I'll do that in the final crypt. So, the item we just obtained was the Bell of the Sky. That's going to teleport us up here. We will also get the Sun Flame. The Bell of the Sky, that's another return item from the first game. It's not quite as versatile. What it did in the first one was any room that had shut doors aside from the boss's room that required you to either kill all the enemies in the room or push a block or both, ringing the bell would override that and the doors would automatically force open. In this one, ringing the bell for those rooms will force the doors open if you need to push a block, but it won't override an enemy kill requirement, unfortunately. Alright, so here's where we use that flute. The ice golem comes out, and he gives us this medallion. We're going to need 4 medallions in order to get into the final crypt. There's our first one. We're going to go and get the next 2 in pretty short order. But we are walking all the way back into the town that we passed through before we came here, so if we wanted to hit up a couple donations at this point, we could do that. Alright, so we go into this hut here, and we talk to this blacksmith, who's going to take our legendary sword as well as that sun flare that we just obtained. And now we have the sun sword. This is the strongest sword in the game. Not only is it the strongest sword, but it is also one of the 3 pieces of required equipment that we need to even get to the final boss. The first was the shield that we got in the 6th crypt. The second is the sun sword, and then in crypt 7 we will be obtaining a set of golden armor. Once we have those 3 things, then we can actually get into the final boss's room. You can't get in there unless you have it. What we're obtaining here is the lightning staff. This thing is awful. It is completely useless, but again, we just need to get it to satisfy 100%. There's a little bit of walking here. We could probably do a donation. Although, no, wait. Coming up... well, I'll just point this out here. In this next screen, these flies are very annoying, but we can just boost right through them and get to where we need to be. So what we're collecting here is our 3rd and final bomb capacity upgrade. Now we can hold up to 20. We don't use very many bombs for the rest of the game, so we don't really get any use from that. It would have been great if we could have had that in the crypt before, but alas. Alrighty, so we're going to head on over just a couple more screens. Here we go. Burn into the middle tree. And here we are going to talk to the scientist Nanyo, who knows that we need to get into the erupting volcano. And how do you get into the erupting volcano? Using a magic hand. Video game logic. Don't ask me. Just whatever. Alright, so we use our wings. This is our last wing usage of the game. Brings us right back to this town. And we're going to go out here into these fire fields again. Which, of course, are very fiery because of the volcano that's going on. Or lava fields, I guess is the better way of putting it. So instead of going left, now we go down. It's just a force of habit to pick up bombs whenever I see them. I probably didn't need those, but I'd rather have too many bombs than not enough. Alrighty, so there's the volcano that I was talking about. Now we can get in. And immediately once we get in, we are confronted with the worst enemies in the game. So the direction that these things fly is random. When they're at the top of the screen, like that one is, and moving back and forth, they're pretty much impossible to hit, and they do a ton of damage. There's my ring. That's always a good thing. Like I said, we're going to need that later. Alright, so here is the salamander boss. We're basically just going to sit here, throw the boomerang a couple times, wail on it with our sword, take a couple boosts, and then just turn around and kill it. That's probably the easiest boss to kill in the game, and we can basically manipulate its movement pattern right there. So it does the same thing every time. So, we go from the quickest and simplest boss fight in the game to now in really just about 30 seconds or so, the worst RNG boss in the game. And this can be, when I'm doing runs, this is a huge point of variance. This can be a big time swing here. It's usually a time swing into the red, but sometimes everything comes together and we can save time here on this next boss. Alright, gotta get the fire staff on because we gotta burn through a couple of these trees here. Alright, so these ogre's enemies. The ogre enemies are really slow. However, that club smash that they do on the ground, if you're in range of it, it can stun you. And you saw how I was kind of walking in place. I couldn't move or even turn. So I was stuck. This is Zorbon. So here's how Zorbon works. You can see he's going to jump, land, shoot water. Jump, land, shoot water. Now, eventually, Zorbon will start kind of scooting diagonally along the ground. When it does, that's when it can be damaged. Or not so much damage, but split into small pieces. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to use the boomerang to split it. I don't know why I threw it that way. Well, we want to split it into smaller parts. Got to split it into more again. And then eventually it gets split into these little bubbles. And then once you kill all the little bubbles, which you can, those you can hit with your sword at any time. Then he's dead. Now, here's where I mentioned before, you have to be very careful with the boomerang. Here's why. When you throw the boomerang, obviously it goes out and then it comes back to you. If you are not in the way of the boomerang on its way back, it will sail past you and you lose it. Losing it here is a huge time loss because trying to fight Zorbon without the boomerang and the next boss without the boomerang are not only much more time consuming, it's also pretty dangerous. Like there's a good chance that I would need to use a potion. So now the way that boss works, the way that Zorbon works there, when it starts sliding, it will keep sliding until you are on the same X or Y axis with it, which is why you saw that I kept throwing the boomerang diagonally, so it would keep going. Also, when you are in that bottom left corner, even if it moves all the way to the left wall, it doesn't pick up your X coordinate, and it will keep sliding. So it's a nice opportunity to continue to kind of play it safe, but to continue to have that opportunity to split it up. That boss fight can get out of hand very quickly. If you let too many of those things on the screen, they're jumping around, a bunch of them are shooting, you can have 4 of those medium-sized Zorbons on there. That fight can become a mess very quickly. So, anyway. Alright, gotta kill all these spiders, and then these statues are gonna come together and allow us access into crypt number 7. So we've collected 3 of the 4 medallions that we need. The 4th medallion that we need is at the end of this crypt. This crypt, more than any others, requires a lot of patience. There's a couple rooms here where you can't rush it. You got to make sure that you do things right. Otherwise, you're just gonna make things a lot more difficult. Having to fight those ogres on these slide tiles is not fun. Again, I don't really need these bombs. It's just a force of habit. Alright, this is one of those rooms that I'm talking about. So, we're going to bomb up, but eventually, after we retrieve what we get up there, we want to go to the left. Now, we need to kill all these knights in order to do it. I can't walk over there and stab them with the sword, so I have to fight them from a distance. Which basically means I'm just hoping they get in the path of my boomerang and die quickly. That room can take a lot longer than you saw it happen there, so I actually was pretty fortunate as far as those patterns went. Yeah, the amount of space that you have there to trigger those dagger blocks right on without actually touching them is pretty small. So we just obtained the gold armor. That's our final armor upgrade, and it's the third and final piece of equipment that we needed to get in order to get into the fight with the final boss. Alright, so when I'm done fighting these ogres, you're going to see me equip that Bell of the Sky. The Bell of the Sky is going to really start to come in handy in this crypt. Again, these enemies are awful. That one was cooperative. Oh, this one's coming right towards me. These demons can be much less cooperative than that. So, actually was fairly fortunate there. Use the bell so that way we don't have to walk all the way up and push that block. Save us some time. See, at this point I'm just like, okay, I know I don't need those bombs, so don't even waste the time to go get them. And of course another one drops right in front of me, so it's all the same. Alrighty, so coming up here are a couple of blob rooms where we've also got to use the rainbow bridge and worry about spike tiles and whatnot. This room in particular. This one just requires a lot of patience and a lot of concentration. What you're going to see here is there's going to be invisible floor tiles. So that just looks like regular ground, but it's what's causing those spikes to flip up and down. So I just have to be mindful of that. I don't have that visual cue. This is one of my favorite sequences here. You pick up the treasure chest, that arrow still comes up, hits you in the gut, but you take it like a champ. No damage, no boost, nothing. Alright, so we're getting pretty close to the boss. Use the bell to ring that door open so we don't have to go all the way down to push the block and then all the way back up. It saves a pretty decent amount of time. Kill these little mushroom guys, and then it's on to the boss. Alright, so this is Sorfloyd. Sorfloyd, its movement pattern is completely random. However, when the middle flower opens up and exposes itself for damage, that is on a fixed timer. And again, just like the fire and the saw blades and whatnot, that timer is fixed as soon as you enter the room. So I'm kind of just doing like a silent count in my head and getting ready for the positioning where I need to be so I can throw that boomerang to start doing damage as soon as possible. If you're lucky, that boss can be done in 2 cycles. It's very tight in order to do it, but 3 cycles is ideal, I would say. 3 cycles is good. If you don't have the boomerang, that fight is really tough because you have to deal with a really weird hitbox. You have to boost into it, and it's just like I said, it can be very dangerous. Lot of damage you take. All right, so again, our reward for the end of that crypt was not only rescuing the princess, but also getting the 4th medallion. Now that we have the 4th medallion, we can move all the way to the end of the desert and gain entrance into the final crypt. Alright, so we're going to burn our way into this cactus. We're going to come in here and we're going to get one more life upgrade. This is the final, thing that you need to get in order to satisfy the 100% category. So really, the only thing that we need to do from here on out is kill the final boss, and that's exactly where we're headed. Alright, so under that skull is the final layer. Now, you need to step on a particular tile, or particular tiles, to affix all of these medallions. Finding the first one can be a little finicky, which is why you kind of saw me, just kind of walking around a little bit there before I was able to put that first one down. Once you put down all 4, it raises up, you walk on in, and here we go. Final crypt. This is a very awkward room to fight these Reapers in, because You know, you're definitely confined as far as your movement. And you can also potentially deal with spike tiles. You know, another thing, I don't even know if I mentioned it in the beginning. Another big difference between this and the first Neutopia really has to do with movement and two particular things. First of all, you can move diagonally, which you couldn't do in the first one. And the other thing is that when using your sword and weapons, you continue to move. Normally in the first one, when you stab, you would stand in place while your sword was out. Whereas here, not only can you keep walking and moving while you're stabbing, you can actually change directions as the sword is out. So it makes moving in this game much more fluid and free. Which is good, because some of the combat in this game would be really, really tough to deal with otherwise. This bug room can be a huge time waster. The sword is easily the strongest weapon to deal with them. However, if they're on the other side of the blocks, it makes it a little tough to get to them. I want to see these guys come up here into the corner. It's pretty much the same principle, because slapping them with the sword is going to make that just so much faster. But assuming they're not going to cooperate, we just have to burn them down with fire instead. Alrighty. So we've got clouds in here. This is the final hurrah for the flail. We're not going to see any more cloud enemies for the rest of the run. So again, I want to be very careful that I don't get... Because the flail picks up items that it hits. So if there is an hourglass that's out there that I don't want to have appear, that can be a big time waste. So you have to be very particular with how you fight those enemies. Another interesting thing about the flail is that every time you swing it, it costs you 10 gold. But by the time we get to the point where we're swinging the flail, we've already got enough money and we don't need it to spend it on anything otherwise, so we don't really care about that. I don't care how cute these flying squirrels may look. They're absolutely awful to deal with, and I just hate them. In fact, we hate them so much that we have a very special strategy for mitigating the next time we encounter them. The next time we encounter them, we have to fight them, I should say. I think it's more important. Could probably squeeze in a donation here, too. We're just really getting to the end of this floor. Fortunately, we can skip these squirrels. We don't have to fight them. We just need them to stay out of our way so that we can get up in here. Alright. This is why I wanted the ring, is for this room here. You've got these 4 flying squirrels. About half the room is cut off, and those blocks, those spikes, appear very often. Without the ring, that room is heinous. It takes forever. You can take a ton of damage. And both of those things are very bad, considering we're in the final crypt. And even more so because we only have 1 medicine. We don't have 2. So we have got to preserve as much life as possible. Alright. You see the rainbow bridge being difficult as it usually does. Didn't mean to boost there, but whatever. We have our key. We need that for the final... We need that to get into the final room as well. So we're taking a detour here. Normally we would go left in that room that I was in before, but we're going right because once we bomb down into here, that's where we're going to find the medicine. This detour takes about a minute, which is a pretty significant amount of time. It's definitely not ideal. Alright, so we're going to use this trick here to just boost back. It makes that a little faster. Alrighty. There's just some walking here, so probably the last couple of donations for the run would be in here. We're going to be done in, you know, maybe about 2 or 3 minutes. There's another one of those invisible floor tiles. Alright, so we lay a bomb here. Like I said, the bombs are powerful, but they're difficult to wield. Fortunately, these guys take a while to wake up, and they don't move very fast. So we can hit them with a couple bombs, and it's pretty quick. Ideally, you want to get right in that sweet spot where the enemy doesn't even wake up, but you can still do damage to it. That's a very difficult room to get through without taking damage. But you want to position yourself just right so you can walk into that teleport before those saw blades get you. Alright. So this is the final... this is the final floor. If you don't have those 3 pieces of equipment like I was telling you about, he tells you where to get them. And like I said, in order to even get into the final, the boss's room, you do need to have all 4 of those items, as well as the key. All 3 of those items, excuse me. Well, 4 items plus the key, including the key. Alrighty. If we get a ring from the bugs in the other rooms, the room before it, if they are bug homies, that's great. That makes that room a lot faster. Alright, so here's Dearth. Here's our final boss. Now, when compared to the Dearth fight in the first game, this is infinitely more random and definitely more dangerous too. So what he did here is he took all 3 of those staffs that I had, the wind, the fire, and the lightning, and now he's going to use these against me. Where he appears and which one of the staffs he uses in each attack sequence is completely random. The lightning one that you see there, we want to see that as much as possible for 2 reasons. First of all, the attack has a chance to miss you, and second of all, he reappears the most quickly after the lightning. Now that wind attack, that's the one we want to see the least often, because it takes him longer to reappear from it, and the wind always knocks you back. Okay, we're almost done here. Time is on the final hit, and that is time. So that fight actually went pretty quickly, which is great. But I had the potions in case I got into trouble there. So there we go. We have defeated Dearth. He is piled on with rocks. The Sword of Legend ornaments it and allows us to bring back the spirit of Dad. We are then infused with the spirit of Dad. And here we go. So we got to talk to some people. We do a bit of a victory lap here with some of the people of Neutopia. And then we get to the sweet montage. Alrighty, I'll come on back here. So that is Neutopia 2 for the 100% category on the TurboGrafx 16. For comparison, my PB is like a high 111. So even with some things that didn't go ideally, it's only, I mean, that was less than 3 minutes longer than the world record. The estimate I'll do is 125. That will take into account perhaps 1 death. I think the likelihood of that happening is very low. I can certainly use potions if I get into trouble, the medicine, if I get into trouble, and, you know, the likelihood of death is very small. Pretty much the only time it happens in my runs is if I get into trouble and I'm just being stubborn and I don't want to use the potion, and I'm okay with resetting. All right. Oh, here's the obligatory group photo, everyone together. Yay, Neutopia has been saved. And we're all happy. The quest of Murdoch's descendant in Neutopia comes to an end, but for the inhabitants of Neutopia, it's the beginning of a new era of peace. And scene. Now begins the montage. Alright, so, I know I was mentioning it throughout this run here. The fact that I ran the first version of this game, Neutopia, at Limit Break 2019. That was an absolutely awesome experience to be able to do that. Because the Limit Break Marathon means a lot to me because... Mostly because of the community. The friends that I get to see there that I normally don't otherwise get to see, which, I would be doing anyway. But also the opportunity to contribute to such a worthwhile cause and to lend my talents in order to do so is something that it's something that I don't take lightly. It's something that I greatly appreciate being able to do. Mental illness has affected many people close to me, my friends, my family, and at a time, even myself. So, being able to contribute to raising funds, especially as much as we do over the course of that week, for such a great cause is, it's an opportunity that I relish, honestly. And, yeah, being able to have another run in this marathon that I can do is something that I sincerely hope will happen. I obviously know, that it's just up to the review team, and if they deem it worthy, then we're good. And I certainly hope that's the case. I hope that the last about, minute or hour and 20 minutes that you've been watching this has convince you to have this cool little game in there and to have me representing it and the community as well. That is something that I would appreciate very greatly. I also think it would be really cool because, like I said, the predecessor to this was run last year. People really, really enjoyed it. The response in the room was awesome. There were memes that were just went completely wild with some memes after this, and given the community that we're talking about, that's something we always love to see. So I hope that the memes from years past will live on, and perhaps even we can create some new ones this year if we do see this here. I know who I'd want to have on my couch for it. It would be a great, entertaining show. So yeah, I think it'd be cool to kind of complete the cycle. To see, we saw the first one last year. We see the second one this year. I think people at the event and viewers at home alike would be really cool with that. So yeah. Well, I think I'm just about to wrap it up here. So yeah, as a reminder, this would be an estimate of about an hour and 25 minutes. The two donation incentives that I have for this would be naming our hero at the beginning of the game. You get 6 characters to do that. So hopefully that would be able to raise a good amount of money in a bid war for the name. And then also in that dope beat cave that I was talking about on the way to crypt number 3, I've got some really fun lyrics that I can perform over the music in there, and we can have people donate to hear me, drop some bars at Limit Break. And again, like I said before, all of the lyrics would certainly be appropriate, family friendly. Nothing to worry about there. I didn't do it here, obviously, because I don't want to I kind of want to keep it a surprise. I don't want to give it away yet. I want people to really donate for something that would be rather unique. And so, upon request, though, if you did want to see or hear those lyrics, I can provide them for you. But I didn't want to do it just yet. But if the submission committee would like to see what those are, I'm happy to share them. So, alrighty. Well, that's gonna do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be considered for running in this marathon. And unfortunately, as you can see here, we've got a Neutopia 3 that was promised but never came. So, oh well. Neutopia 2 is as good as it gets. So, hopefully you agree, and we can feature this at RPG Limit Break 2020. So, either way, I'm going to be there at the event because it means so much to me. So, I will see you there. And until then, take care.